Episode 6, we are back, and we are back with somebody who spoke at our Fuel Live event. We had a really good time at Fuel, didn't we?
It was nice.
It was nice.
Yeah.
So, intro. I love it when people intro, but Will Little from Little's Coffee, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And what I really want to use today for is to just talk about your journey with Little's. So from a family-run business into where you are now, 4 mil. Have I got that right? I'm not
4.75.
There you go. So from a family business into a 4.75 mil business, and the trials and tribulations you've had, the things that have worked, the things that haven't worked.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. Let's be really honest, because...
How long have you got? No.
Yeah, because our listeners are exactly the same as you. They're founders, they're growing businesses. Saw your post yesterday, actually, about growing a business and actually those, the propaganda behind that as well.
The propaganda I'm not falling for in 2025.
Let's start with that. I think that's a good place to start, is it?
I posted at 9:15, so it bombed. Yeah, I'm just not like on top of the scheduling thing at all. It's like I can.
You need to listen to our podcast before this one. It was all about posting times.
I know. 2 kids. It's difficult. But anyway.
Being a founder. So let's start with propagandas then, because I think that's a good place to start. So growing a business and your thoughts around that sort of growth piece.
Yeah, I mean, so we come at this, as I said in the LinkedIn post, from a different angle. I run a 2nd generation family business. So, I know lots of founders who are scaling very rapidly, and they've had a brilliant idea and taking advantage of market opportunity, and they want to get there as quickly as possible, and that is absolutely fine, and more power to them. I have a different strategy, which is that I have a legacy. My name's on the jar, so it's like it's kind of tricky a little bit, and also because my parents started the business, I took it over nearly 15 years ago. I've also got quite a long-term view on this thing, so like I'm not saying I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, but it's certainly not a scale and exit kind of business.
Yeah.
So a lot of my advice is to do with longevity, actually, as it is to how do you double your turnover in 8 months? I actually don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But I do know how to build, a sustainable business that, can withstand the, different market forces that come and go over the years. So yeah, I think, where do we go from there?
Where do we go from there? So I think we need to start with Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Do we start there?
The dragon in the room.
Yeah. I think we
can
start
talk
with
about that.
I think we start with Dragon's Den. So
Sure.
we are both based in Exeter in the Southwest. Yep. I live and breathe the Southwest. I'm a massive advocate for Southwest businesses. And I was sat in my living room and I saw Will Little from Little's Coffee in Exeter on my TV, and I was like, oh, pause it. And I paused it. So talk to me about Dragon's Den, because it's a great story. You are flying the flag for so many other local businesses.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, listen, I'd love to say that there was some sort of big strategy behind why we went to Dragon's Den. They honestly just reached out to us. And it's actually happened once before, like many, many moons ago. They emailed us and I was like, nah. Because basically what it is, as you'll probably remember, anyone over a certain age will remember that Dragon's Den's been around for a while, and it's not always been the coolest of shows. And yes, there's been Trunky and there's been reggae sauce and stuff like that, but by and large, there's always some dude with a weird shower head, right? That cleans itself or some.
Did you see the toilet potty thing?
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying, and that's fine. That's entertaining or whatever. But it's only in the last couple of years that you kind of seen the show take a different form, especially I think with the introduction of Steven Bartlett. I was going to call him Steve.
I actually went to school with him.
Wow.
I went to school with him.
So you know him as Steve.
So I know him as Steve.
It's just Steve, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's difficult when you say Steve, though, because people are like, who?
Who is he? He needs the SB bit.
Steven Bartlett. Yes. Yeah, so I think, since he's been on the show, and then obviously I think brands like Perfect Ted and Bold Bean kind of pave the way for it to become a kind of like a legitimate kind of founder-led, especially FMCG kind of show where like brands like us could get some traction and it adds value. So they emailed. I was like, not interested, because basically that was a really long segue into saying basically a lot of as I was growing up, it's always people's mums that say, oh, you should go on Dragon's Den. I'm like, nah, come on. But then obviously last year I was like, do you know what? Maybe we should. And so we applied, and to cut a really long story short, we got accepted. I did an audition. I kind of thought every stage I was like, we're not going to get through the next bit, so we'll just try it. But at some point they're going to say like, no thanks, it's not for us. But they didn't. And then before you know it, you're in Manchester versus studios, waiting to go into the freaking lift. And
how did you feel when you went into the lift?
The whole thing is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But not like, oh, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But like by a margin of 10. Like it's so intense. And because I haven't done anything like that, I did a thing for like BBC World News once, which is pretty kind of intense. But like I just haven't done that sort of stuff. And then you walk into this room, right? Spoiler alert, the lift is fake and it's all on one floor. Everyone knows that, surely. But anyway, you walk into this room and it's the first time you see the dragons, and you're in this space that you've grown up watching. I think it's since 2001, I think they've been running it. So like, and obviously you've got some pretty famous people in front of you, including, I like Steve. I've been listening to his podcast for a while, and I was like, it's Steven Bartlett.
That fame kicks in.
I know. And then you're like, oh no, I got to deliver my 2-minute pitch and not soil myself and stuff.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is absolutely surreal and terrifying, and you're in complete autopilot. Like there's no, if your bowels are going to let you down, you have no control over that.
Which is I'm just going to segment away from the bowels bit.
Oh no, please don't.
Which is the worst part. Like it just gets to the point of, I would stand there and I'd be like, oh my goodness.
So it is intense. So so you have to prepare a 2-minute pitch. So that's what it is. And that pitch has to include, your pledge and all that sort of stuff. And to be fair to the BBC, you get assigned like an account manager person.
Okay,
Hannah,
interesting.
Her name is Hannah. She's brilliant, and she was my go-to. And like they coach you on that. In fact, you have to kind of run through that pitch with like the producers and stuff, so you've got a kind of good idea that you're giving them good content. But anyway, that's where it all starts. So you walk in, you deliver your 2-minute pitch. Now I made sure that I was 100% like completely rehearsed, to the point where I was practicing it like at the pub after like 4 pints, on holiday in front of my kids, like late at night, early in the morning, like literally in every possible scenario, because I knew that it was going to be a sort of an autopilot thing, and like I just couldn't be in a position where I just didn't want to be that guy, who
where
chokes.
They can just like choke you in and go, right, I've got that point I can pick on. Yeah,
and exactly, or like forget what you're saying. I mean, we've all watched it, and it's just so excruciating. I'm not going to be that guy. So I went in there fully prepared. The thing is really random, right? You remember like little details. You walk in, because it is a stage, the floor's kind of like fake. But it creaks. So there's a little mark on the floor, and the producer says, when you go in the den, there's a small white T on the floor. Please stand on the T and then deliver your pitch. I walk in. Okay, I can see the T. This is good. I stand on T, and I'm like, oh shit, the floor's creaking.
Oh no.
And then you got all the lights on you, all the cameras on you, you got the 5 dragons smiling at you, and you're like, oh my God, the floor's creaking. and I was like, I was not expecting that. And then you have to just kind of style it out. And even during my pitch, I'm like rocking back and forth, trying to find a position where it's not creaking. And it's like little things like that. It was like just not helpful. But yeah, ultimately, I think what you probably want to get onto is not whether the floor was creaking or whether I pooed myself, but it's the fact that, even though we've been around for a million years, we still have the same challenge that a startup does, which is that we're a small business. We have a massive market opportunity, in coffee, and it's hard to really punch above your weight in terms of like brand awareness. And Dragon's Den does give you 4 million pairs of eyeballs on your brand. So it's like a 15-minute TV advert on BBC, which is completely like bonkers in terms of exposure. So it was that I thought, and then at the end of it, if you get a new business partner, who knows what they're doing and can help unlock things, then even better. But that was the justification, really. And even though a lot of people ask, like, been around for so long, why did you go on Dragon's Den? It's like, because we've got the same problems as a startup.
Yeah.
We haven't got it figured out. 4.7 million, you can say that's big. And it is bigger than it was, but I have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah. Reassuring.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I do. Yeah, I've got it all figured out.
So what's it like working with family?
So there's 2 sides to that. So there's my parents' family, like as in my family, as in my parents who started. And they're no longer kind of actively in the business. They're still shareholders, but they're living their best life. I retired them in 2018. That is a conversation. And now I work with my wife, which I've worked with my wife ever since we came back from London to do this. And that's got its own challenges. So what do you want to dig into? I'm happy to be open book about everything.
So what is it? So it's a family business.
Yeah.
So it's you and your wife running the business.
Yeah.
So what does the business look like? Like how many people have you got in your factory?
Yeah.
Like what does that look like? Because I'm really intrigued.
Yeah. So we have, so we manufacture everything we make. So that's one of the key things to remember is that Little's is a brand, but we also make our own products. So we have a manufacturing facility just up the road, up the M5 from Exeter, and we employ about 33 people. My wife is our sort of product and NPD manager, and she also looks after loads of other things like B Corp and sustainability and stuff on like 3 days a week, which is pretty amazing.
So do we talk about MPD? Do we talk about new products?
Yeah.
Have you bought any products with you?
Oh, yeah.
Should we get them out? Let's have a look.
So we've got, so actually we've been really busy recently, or actually Caro, my wife's been really busy recently, launching, I've also brought our bestseller vanilla as well, but that's old hat. We don't worry about that. But yeah, so we've got 2 really exciting flavors. We've got the glazed cinnamon and we've got chocolate cherry. Now these 2 have literally just come out in the last couple of weeks. And it's just kind of showing the kind of new direction we're going in with just really focusing on that core consumer that we know loves our products and is just making iced coffee every day, basically. So it's a...
So who is your consumer?
It's the iced coffee girlie. Let's face it. But it's also iced coffee girlie's mum.
So I have an iced coffee girlie in my team.
Okay.
So I can visualize in my head what they look like, who they are, and all of those things.
Yeah.
But their mum, interesting.
Yeah, because it's instant coffee. So we also do Nespresso capsules and a few other formats, but actually the instant coffee like solves so many problems. It's got a bit of a bad rep still.
Nescafe?
Yeah. We can talk about them.
We're here to talk about you. Let's talk about you.
Yeah, I think you know my sentiment about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, but just on that, I think they've done a really great job of like ruining the instant coffee market because instant coffee has got a lot going for it. It's really convenient. It's low price per cup. It actually doesn't have to taste terrible. But thanks to some of the big brands in the category, they've just driven that quality down to a point where people go, I hate instant coffee. It's like, well, no, you hate that big brand.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily hate instant coffee. So like I said in my post last night, it's like you clearly haven't tried Little's because, okay, if you're a coffee aficionado and you've got your hand grinder and your V60 or whatever, your Sage machine at home.
Who has time to do that?
Well, that's fine. If you do, brilliant. But most people don't. So that's where things like instant coffee come in. And I think, you know, if you look at the behavior of those iced coffee girlies and they're buying Starbies every day or other brands are available.
Which is expensive.
It is. And the thing is, okay, you can buy the kind of can or whatever, but at home or at work, how are you making that iced coffee? So Little's provides you, those consumers, any consumers, really that opportunity to kind of glow up their kind of at-home coffee. And that's kind of what we're here to do.
So glazed cinnamon then. Is this now live for people to buy?
Yeah.
This is open to the market.
Yeah, no one's going to tell me off for bringing it in and talking about it.
Love that. And did I see another one this morning or yesterday that had just come on? Maple syrup?
Yeah, so it's actually a flavour we've had for decades. Maple walnut is called. And it's always one of those ones that like, it did relatively well. It's like in the middle of the pack in terms of, we've got about 16 flavours now.
Wow, yeah, I didn't realise.
Yeah, quite a few. We probably need to have a look at that actually, whether we kill some of the old ones.
And bestsellers are?
Vanilla and hazelnut are bestsellers, 100%. Okay. But this chocolate cherry's gone absolutely bonkers. So maple walnut was always in the middle of the pack, but it just, we have like a weekly kind of tasting panel at work. And it's just one that we've been flagging for quite a while, saying, I think we could do more with it. It could be delivering more.
Yeah.
And then we put some energy into it and improve the flavour. It tastes so good.
It's
so good. It's like maple. It's like someone dropped maple syrup into your coffee. And like that really nutty walnut thing going on is really good. So that's what Caro, my wife's doing, is just going through and making sure that all of our products are absolutely like, it's so important to lead with good quality products. That's absolutely our
so we kind of went round in a bit of a product circle then. So your wife does MPD in products.
Yes.
Which part of the business do you look after and does the rest of your team sort of cover? So obviously she's MPD, you're doing...
Well, I'm managing director, whatever that means. But actually, no, I do know what it means. For us, that means that I generally look after the sales and marketing function.
Amazing.
So I've got a general manager who looks after like the day-to-day and the operations. So he'll look after quality, safety, running the factory, getting goods out, getting stuff in, all that sort of stuff. So actually that's really good because I'm not very good at that stuff.
And not many brands manufacture their own products, right? So that's really unique. And really, what do you think about that? Because we hear both sides of that. We hear we don't manufacture, we think we should, or we do and we shouldn't. What's your sort of gauge on that?
Yeah, I absolutely. It is actually very unusual. And what makes us even more unusual is we don't really do own label either. So it's like our factory just makes Little's products up to, there's a couple of little things we do for other people. But it's just because that's how the business was always set up. So my parents started a coffee roastery. Yeah. And that by its nature was a manufacturing business. And then as things evolved, the brand became more important. And when I came on board, I realized that that's where the opportunity was. But we were always making our products. And actually, you look at a lot of brands like Huel's a really good example where they were outsourcing their manufacturing and now they brought it in-house, because at some point, if you really want to optimize your margins and optimize things like agility to bring new products to market, making your own stuff does help with that. So,
and I bet you can move really fast on it as well.
And this is the point, like from concept to actual, product in hand is probably 8 weeks for us.
Oh, that's good.
Maybe less, depending on what it is. So it's pretty quick. So I think, that's what we have to be able to do. We've got to be agile, just because our competitors can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's got, listen, manufacturing your own gear is not for everyone. You've got to know what you're doing, and it's a whole different discipline, and you don't want to go into it sort of, lightly. But for us, we've always done it. I'm a proud manufacturer.
Yeah.
And I think it's our strength up to a certain extent.
So brand. Little's Coffee, when I first came across Little's Coffee, didn't look like this. Mm-hmm. So how has your brand evolved as your business has evolved? I think that's really important. What a question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because it's what I feel really passionately about. So Little's answer the question, Will.
And breathe.
Some words would be useful. I find it much easier to objectively look at someone else's brand and give them advice. In fact, I've helped some of my friends, do brand DNA sessions and the Simon Sinek, the why discovery and all that sort of stuff. Like, I'm actually all right at that.
Yeah.
When it comes to my own company, I'm terrible.
Difficult.
I'm too close to it. So over the years, we tried to kind of move it along, and some of it we've done in house, some of it we've outsourced to creative agencies, and it's really not always successful. And you can spend tens of thousands of pounds and not get something you're happy with. So that's definitely been our journey. And then a couple of years ago in 2022, we were like, look, we just don't have the brand that we believe that we can really scale with.
Yeah.
Just from a kind of DNA perspective and just how we show up and how we do things. So we reached out to a creative agency in Bournemouth called Mad River, and they are very good. So shout out to Simon and Sia. But they are geniuses, and they are very, very good at taking usually failed rebrands and fixing them. So if you look in their portfolio, you'll be like, oh, did they do that? Did they do that? And it's like, no, they didn't do that. They fixed it.
Yeah.
Because usually big fish come along and they do the thing that they do. And that's amazing. Like, and
costs thousands.
100%. It costs thousands. And sometimes it's brilliant. Sometimes it misses the mark a little bit. It doesn't quite work in the fixture. It doesn't quite land. And so you need someone who comes along and can really figure out what the category challenge is, how to communicate with consumers at the point of purchase, what the hierarchy needs to be unpacked, and really make it functionally work. And that's what these guys were good at. So they completely redid everything. And we discovered that we've got a way more rock and roll edge than we kind of thought. And we were always too afraid to actually be the brand that we knew we were, because we didn't want to offend Iced Coffee Girlie's mummy. Or nanny or whoever. Why do I call her mummy? It's because I've got 2 young kids, and that's so creepy.
With your branding, your audience has changed though since your brand's changed.
It has. Well, it's deliberately changed. So it's changed because we're trying to change it. So if we'd continued as we were, it would have just been older consumers, and that's fine. But we know that the challenge in the category is that younger consumers are not being recruited into coffee, especially in retail. I mean, that's the number one challenge with, right now it's price, I guess. But if you speak to the Sainsbury's buyer, Tesco buyer, they're always talking about younger consumers not being really engaged in coffee. So what if you come along with a brand that's like, hey, we're recruiting younger consumers into your category, they're going to love you. So we kind of knew that we needed to be the brand that brings coffee to younger consumers and find a way of doing that. And it's good because it allows you also then to have a much funner brand as well. No offense to brands that appeal to older consumers, but I love the whole TikTok thing and the disruptive brand thing.
That's where the Iced Coffee Gal hangs out.
That's where they hang out. Yeah. And the Iced Coffee Gal is a new addition to our repertoire of consumers. That remember, 5 years ago, there was no Iced Coffee Gal.
Yeah.
So it was like, we knew we wanted to attract younger consumers, but now it's like, we can define it much better. We know who that person is, and there's a whole tribe of them out there, and we can build that community. Yeah. It's amazing.
So, and something I picked up when you were on Dragon's Den was retail versus online.
Yeah.
So obviously we are a digital marketing agency. Yeah. We sit in that realm. And that was one thing that really stood out to me, how small your online space is compared to your sort of wholesale retail space.
Yeah.
So I guess just talk about that a bit more, because it's something we hear a lot of. You know, I've got brands that are it's 5% of their business, and I'm like, you should be doing more.
Yeah.
So just talk to me about how you got to that point, and are you going to grow it? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. And it just comes down to wheelhouses again. So, you know, the reason we were retail first was because, honestly, when I joined the business in 2010 and I looked at kind of what the opportunities were, we realized that, well, D2C wasn't a thing. So, it was up to a certain extent, but it was tiny. So it's like, well, let's go after Whole Foods, let's go after Waitrose, let's go after Sainsbury's and Tesco, blah, blah, blah. And then that's kind of how it perpetuated. And that's where the opportunity was. And if you look at some of the early challenger brands, your sort of, you know, Propercorns or your Beavers or Belvoir, depends how you want to pronounce it, or like, you know, whatever. You know, a lot of those guys were retail first, you know, and I thought that's how you, back in 2011, 2013, that's how you scaled a brand. Now the game has changed, and I think we've been left behind. And I think that was very apparent. The grilling I got from Steve on Dragon's Den was absolutely correct. It's, you know, I thought, well, we're doing 420 grand on D2C. It's not that small, pal, but it's only 9% or whatever it was, 8%. So, you know, it wasn't big enough. And we had left a load of consumers and cash on the table, essentially. Now we are addressing that. And I've learned a lot, actually. And remember, we filmed in June 2024. So it's been nearly a year since then. So we've done a lot of work. And the D2C channel is going to go from, I think it was like 420 last year. Now we're going to do over 1 million this year. So
love to hear that.
Yeah, we're really attacking it hard. It's also where the Iced Coffee Girlie's hanging out, as you say.
It is.
But it's about, and a lot of brands talk about the omni-channel opportunity, but it really is. I mean, you know, you use something like usually performance marketing to kind of drive that consumer discovery at the top of the funnel. And then, you know, you get them to buy online first because that's the easiest way to convert. And then if you give them the opportunity to buy it in other points of distribution, you will get that kind of omni-channel effect.
Yeah.
So there's a trickle-down effect where recruiting consumers online, D2C on consumers online, will eventually result in more rate of sale in store. So it is, yeah, we're starting to see that now. And it's like, well, duh. But, you know, you only know what you know, innit?
Yeah, you only know what you know. I mean, you're talking about the funnel. Like, it's just, I love it because it's what we do every day, right? So going into those channels then, what do you feel is your best performing channel? Is it social media? Is it performance marketing? Is it email marketing? Which obviously I love, but talk to me. Which are you seeing in 2025 is your best for acquiring new customers?
Yeah. So again, I don't know, like we're doing it backwards. So we're like scrambling to try and build the D2C. So historically, email is, and when you talked about it at Fuel Live, I was like hallelujah. Like email marketing is so powerful. And to be fair to my team over the years, we did the whole organic thing, email marketing thing really, really well. Conversion rate was through the roof. Like AOV was through the roof. We weren't measuring LTV, lifetime value. It's okay to use acronyms?
Yeah, as long as you say what they are, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So average order value or lifetime value. We didn't really know anything about lifetime value like this time last year. But yeah, AOV was really good and the conversion rates were absolutely unreal. So, you know, so we had a really profitable 420 grand's worth of business, right? And email was absolutely driving force. Something like 65% of our revenue was coming through email.
Amazing.
It's nuts. Like it was brilliant. But of course, as you sort of so now what we're doing is we are putting a lot of resource and a lot of time and effort as well as money into performance marketing, so Meta and Google, because it's the only way you can really scale. Now, the trick then is to make sure that your subscription model's like on point, your email flows are on point, and we use, everyone calls it Clavio. I'm Clavio.
I'm a Clavio.
You're a Clavio.
I'm a Clavio.
As well.
Did you? Lovely.
A little bit.
I'm a Clavio.
Clavio is how it's spelled.
Clavio.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it out there. But anyway,
we're actually partners, and it is actually Clavio.
Is it? They call it Clavio.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to change my ways. All right, I feel like a heathen now. But you know, through the power of that bit of software and that platform, you know, you could do so much. And I think if you optimize it, but it's a different way of thinking now because you're not trying to get an organic consumer to subscribe. You're trying to get, you know, someone that you've actually paid to acquire.
Yeah.
Which is a slightly different. So we're seeing that those rates are kind of coming down, but that's where the flows come in. You know? And actually, I don't really know that much about it. It's Ella and the team, the marketing team, who really, that's like they live and breathe the stuff. I listen to it and it's like, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm running the risk of saying things I don't really know what I'm talking about. Flows.
But that's really interesting that you're putting your performance. So performance marketing is helping to acquire those customers.
100%.
But what you're saying is it's really important that actually your email marketing is
100%.
underpinning that in your subscription models, because that's keeping them in the business.
It has to, because otherwise you're paying £8, £10 or whatever to acquire a customer. And if they come on the site and spend £25 or £24 or whatever the AOV is, that's not good maths.
No.
Like that's, even I can figure out that's not good. So you've got to get that lifetime value up. And the way you do that is you get the email address, you get them to subscribe, and then hopefully they'll come back 3 or 4 times that year. And that's where you're making money. So we've got a really, really good agency that we work with, performance marketing agency. And that's kind of, they've opened my eyes to that whole world. And it is a whole different world. And it's not sexy or fun.
No, it's really numbers driven. It's a numbers game.
It is literally data. And I always think marketing, or I don't, but a lot of people think...
Please don't insult us.
No, but marketing is like, but people are like, I want to get into marketing. I'm like, okay, what do you like about marketing?
Yeah,
content.
Which type?
So that's content creation.
Yeah.
Marketing is data.
You can join our team if you want, because that's what we do every day. We have to explain to people that actually there are different realms of it, and that content piece is very different to a data analytical, SEO, PPC, whatever part of marketing you're doing. They're all very different.
Yes.
So my team, their content, I'm an email, I've got a PPC man. Like we've got different people that sit in the team with different skill sets. Yeah,
and the unfortunate truth of it is that the thing that actually drives results is the not sexy bit. Like the content is almost like an activation. It's like if someone says I want to get into content marketing, I'm like, well, that's the same as saying I want to be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
But that's not marketing. That's just the creation of the asset.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that's not important. I mean, we've got we've put a lot of focus on content because for us, content creation isn't just about putting it out on organic channels. It's obviously one use for it, but actually we turn that video content
into loads of different types of content.
Yeah, and we need to get better at it. But like, especially for the performance marketing, we're using a lot of our content now to create ads with. And nowadays, people don't want to see ads; they want to see real content.
So do you see that what we see a lot, UGC content works really well from an ad perspective?
That's all we do now. Well, no, that's not true. That's not all we do. But that's the real push at the moment, and what seems to be sort of driving a lot of the ROAS.
Yeah, we love a bit of ROAS at KW.
But ROAS is only part of the pie.
Yeah.
It's one side of a triangle.
100%. And like you say, it's just constantly looking at that omni-channel, multi-channel piece of how do all these things feed into each other and how can they help me grow that business?
Yeah.
So what do founders need to watch out for, I think? So obviously we focus in the online space. So I'm just going to say in the online space, if you're growing your online store, what's the one thing that founders, challenge brands, SMEs need to watch out for?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think, well, first of all, because I'm bootstrapping this bad boy, we don't have any investors. We need to cover that off. What's Steve doing in this conversation?
We'll go back to that.
Okay, we still don't have any investors, so I'm self-funding this through profit. So we need to make profit, and then we invest that profit into growth. That's how Littles
How
grows.
good does that feel, though?
It's terrifying when you're not making much profit, but we'll get onto that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice because the power's in your hands. You go slow, but it's you're not beholden to anyone. And you don't really have a boss, which is what I like. What was the question? What to look out for? Yeah. So for me, it's about, again, if someone hands you £500,000 and said, grow your business, you can acquire customers and you can get revenue up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But the question is, are you profitable? Because at some point it is a business. The very definition of a business is to make profit. So that is what we're here to do. That's what every business is here to do, ultimately, whether you have a plan for it now or plan for it later. So I think with a lot of the kind of performance marketing side of it, it's easy to, pardon my French, but piss money down the drain.
Yeah.
And focus on things like ROAS and
lose the bigger picture. So understand what is your lifetime value. And we use a metric called PSM, but so profitable scaling margin. So that takes our cost of goods into consideration. The return on, the cost of acquisition rather than return on ad spend, actually, cost of acquisition, COGS, and then lifetime value. And you bring those three statistics together and it tells you whether what you're doing is actually building profitable revenue in the long run. Yeah.
Because it is a long game. It's like performance marketing is exactly like any you hear Rory Sutherland talking about, marketing is hard to measure because you're doing something now that might have an effect in 9 months.
So switch on, switch off performance marketing, really, but actually it's that longer term. Are they going to purchase more than once?
Don't look at ROAS. So that's the first one. And make sure that you are scaling profitable revenue. It might not matter to you today, but someday it will. You know, and profitability is important. The other thing is it's so important now to build a community. And I think that we're still really learning to do that well, but because of that iced coffee girly, we know where they are, we know how they behave. We are starting to see the results of that now, but find your we used to call them tribes, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Oh, that was so long ago.
I know, it's 3 years ago.
That was COVID time, wasn't it? Find your tribe. Love that.
I still like tribe.
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm an old man.
I actually think that was in my Instagram bio at some point. I think I only just removed it a bit, a few months ago. That just shows, doesn't it? It's like a COVID thing, I think.
But yeah, build community. Just really, you've got so many opportunities now to be real, to use UGC or employee generated content.
Yeah.
And that stuff works so well. And if you got a founder or someone in your business who's got a bit of personality, just plaster them all over TikTok. Make them look like fools, squirt them with glaze, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So is that what we see from Littles then? Or is that what we're going to see in 2025?
More of that. I mean, I don't want to make it all about me. I don't think anybody's going to enjoy that. And there's some real interesting people in the business, who've got points of view and probably a little bit more aligned with the target consumer. But it is all about if we can make it real, and a brand. I think some people think Littles is tiny. Some people think Littles is massive. And I think anyone that thinks Littles is it a subsidiary of some bigger brand? It's no, it's Will Little and Caroline Little.
Yeah.
And a few other people making some stuff in a place in a factory in Willand. So it's to make that come to life, I think, why not? Why wouldn't you? That Nescafe can't do that. They can't make themselves real.
And what about founder-led content?
Yeah.
So obviously we see a lot that founder-led content works really well. Amelia Christie Miller, Bold Bean, she absolutely smashes founder-led content.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that? Does that work for Littles? Do you do a lot of it? Obviously I saw your post yesterday, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I'm not a digital native. So it's actually, I deleted my Instagram a few years ago. I have to work at it pretty hard. I'm 41. I'm not that old. I don't know. Is that old? It's old.
I'm 33, so it's a bit old.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Thanks, Kate.
Sorry.
Okay, no. So I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And I think that, it doesn't come that naturally to me. So I've got to really force myself to do the thing. Luckily, the girls in the marketing team are on my ass all the time. Will, we've got to film this thing. We've got to film this thing. And they don't really let me get away with it. So, and it is fun. I really enjoy it. And I think it's really, really funny. And I think,
does it feel as though it's a chore though? Because it's always when you're running a business, it's always at the bottom of the pile, isn't it? I've got to be here, there and everywhere doing this, and this.
Building a personal brand does. The content I do for TikTok for Littles is not really, because it's kind of scheduled in. It's in the content calendar. Ella, my marketing manager, is usually the one sort of saying, we're doing this today. Will.
Yeah.
So I know it's in the diary, but it's the LinkedIn stuff for me. Part of me really enjoys it and part of me finds it a chore.
Yeah.
And I find it really difficult. I mean, Steven Bartlett.
We will go into that.
Yeah, he's a big advocate of you've got to be consistent with it and stuff. And I'm I really struggle with being consistent with it. So I do think it's super important. Amelia is one of the best examples of it. It's very honest.
It's just real.
It's really real.
It's real.
And there's lots of good examples of that, people, but it's consistency at the end of the day. And I think she probably fundamentally just enjoys it.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting with founder-led content, especially on LinkedIn, the stuff that performs really well is the stuff that you think's crap.
Yeah.
I put a picture up of a coffee cup on the way from Devon to London on a train. And it went mental.
Oh, yeah.
But that's so boring.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get my point across. It's but it's a coffee cup, okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It is really crazy. But that is part of, like you say, a bigger strategy of building a personal brand, a founder-led story. So
it is. It's another string to your bow. So how do I relate myself to the brand? Well, okay, my name is Will Little, so that helps and stuff. But Amelia Christie Miller is not, her name isn't Bold Bean.
Yeah.
But it's still it's just another way to it's difficult for brands to stand out in a very, very noisy market now. And that's where, above the line, campaigns come in and stuff. So what can a challenger brand do without 250 grand in the back pocket for ATL campaigns? Be real. And normally there is someone who's got something to say behind the brand, whether it's Jamie Lang or, whether it's Amelia or whoever it is, Ben Veer, whoever, these people are fucking interesting people. They're fascinating. You want to learn from them because they
and learn from your stories as
Definitely.
well. And that's really important, I think.
I think so.
So let's talk about it.
Okay.
What happened, Dragon's
Steve.
Den? We didn't go back to it, did we? Go on.
No, I talked about pooing myself and
you did.
Claws. So got 4 offers, accepted an offer from Steven Bartlett.
Yes.
Steven Bartlett. And I thought I was like king of the world, like literally so stoked. Like I didn't expect to get, I just wanted to get through it. I wasn't expecting to get offers. And then in my wildest dreams, I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to have Steven Bartlett on the team? So I came out of that. I was like, this is amazing. But then, again, it's a year's worth of stuff that happened. So I'm going to really like paraphrase it. But essentially, the BBC lost my details for 3 months and then lost them again. So actually, Steven's team didn't get in touch with me until like October. So June 19th, we filmed. And then I spoke to him in the corridor after the filming. I asked the producers, I was like, I'm buzzing. I need to speak to the guy.
We saw the picture. You got that lovely picture.
Yeah, exactly. So that was shot in that, in the corridor. And I had a really good chat with him. And he was like, yeah, this is what's going to happen next. Like my brother's going to be in touch. He does the legals and we're going to exchange contracts and, and then you'll get my number and then we'll get a meeting in the diary to talk about priorities. And I was like, this is great. And he sort of made it sound like it's like a week or 2, right?
Yeah.
So I go home and I'm like refreshing my emails like every 5 minutes. It's like, where's the email from Steve? Never came. And then months went by. And eventually, in October, I managed to get, they got in touch with me and I was like, okay, let's get the ball rolling. And then you go through a due diligence process so his company he's changed everything over there, but it was called Flight Fund. The Flight Fund still exists, but this is his investment fund. Everything's wrapped into this thing called Flight Story, which produces the podcast and does everything. So you do due diligence for Flight Fund. And at that point, things had to go a little bit funny. They were like, oh, you haven't passed due diligence. And I was like, okay, well, what was the problem? And his fund manager at the time was like, oh, we're a bit concerned about your ability to scale the D2C channel. And I was like, well, like we discussed this in the den. I talked about it with Steve. And I said, like, so there's nothing I've told you in the due diligence that you didn't already know. Like, literally, I've given all that information to either the BBC or talked about it in the den with Steve. So suddenly backtrack and go, oh, we're worried about the size of your D2C. I'm like, well, you knew about that. It was on TV. Like,
4 billion people saw it.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't think it's a surprise. And they're like, yeah, well, it's an amber flag. It's not a red flag. So we'll put you on this kind of test and learn program where we kind of just see how things go kind of thing. So they were like, you basically get the benefits of as if we've invested, but we haven't invested. And I was like, I don't like the sound of that, but go ahead. And they did help. There was a lot of help. I met some really, really, really great people over there. So I don't know people's exact job titles, but their head of marketing at the time and the head of sort of design, they were amazing people, amazing, and got a lot out of them. But as time went on and as we got closer and closer to the airing date, I was just feeling like, where's this investment? Like, what's going on?
And uneasy. Did you feel a bit like...
Horribly uneasy. But I was too busy with building new websites and trying to get marketing up and running and getting 300 grams worth of stock built, all that sort of stuff. I was like, I don't have time to worry about this. But every time I kind of brought it up with the team, they were like, no, we'll talk about it soon. We'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about it whenever, after the airing. So anyway, airing happened, went mental. Everything went completely like bonkers. And then I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. Like, we need to talk about, we've delivered everything at our end. Like, sales went crazy, doubled our email database, like went viral, all that sort of stuff. And they were like, no, we'll talk about investment soon. We'll talk about investment soon. And I was like, I don't like this at all. And eventually managed to pin him down and just got really weird vibes. It just felt wrong, Kate. And I started to think about what does 5% of my family legacy mean? And I was like, I know he's famous. I really like the guy. He's still in touch. He's a great person. He's really, he's a straight shooter. I really like him. But I just thought, if you take away it's Steven Bartlett, it's like, what am I getting for this?
What am I actually getting for that? So
that's why I turned it down. So I've turned down the investment a few weeks ago.
So one thing you do differently with Dragon's Den, anything or nothing?
No.
Okay.
And it's such a cliche, but it's the journey that I've been on that's made it all worthwhile because I've had to figure out what my business is about. I've had to pitch my business to, not just in the den, but since the den, like to his C-suite and like people, not necessarily C-suite, but like people in his organization. And I've had to figure out what a USP is and like really I've got such a better understanding of my business, my consumer. The experience has been absolutely invaluable. It's been great for obviously the brand as well. And yes, there's little things I would have done different or whatever, but honestly, like I'm so grateful for what's happened.
Yeah.
There's nothing negative about it.
Yeah.
And what a baptism of fire, though. What a way to learn stuff. It's just
a hard way to learn, I think.
It is, but it's also like you get exposed to stuff that you would never get to experience. No.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really grateful. And I actually wouldn't change anything. No.
Okay, so 2025, Littles. What are we going to see? What's happening that you can tell us? Obviously, some things you might not be able to, but things that are going on, what are we going to see more of from Littles in 2025?
So we are pressing ahead with quite a lot of NPD.
Okay.
So NPD is both for us like new flavor development, as you see with the products in front of you, but it's also potentially looking into new categories as well.
Interesting.
Just spoiler alert, we're never going to do RTD. We're not going to do coffee in cans. It's not what we're here to do.
Okay.
So it won't be that, but it might be other things, because again, it's like, how do we make sure that we got the right products for that consumer to make delicious coffee, mainly iced coffee, at home?
Yeah.
So let your mind run wild.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. And just community building, just building community. We've got more distribution coming through. We've got, there's a few retailers we're not in. We're working really hard to try and get some distribution in those retailers. More SKUs into the retailers we're in.
And where are you? Just so that our listeners know where you are.
Nationwide in Waitrose, Sainsbury's and Tesco. And you can also find us on ocado.com. But actually, really importantly, you'll probably find us in your local farm shop as well. So support your local farm shops, because they usually carry a really wide range of Littles, and it's still real sort of bread and butter stuff. So yeah, supermarkets are great, but actually support your local retailers as well.
And are you doing any events this year? Will we be able to see you at any food festival? No. Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, no, we've done all of those at some point, and they can be good. For our brand, it's like there's not a huge amount of education to be done. So tasting is believing. So Littles tastes amazing, but actually for us, it's much more effective to have a distribution strategy that we're really delivering on. So that's both online and in
retail,
store.
yeah.
So getting eyeballs on the brand at the point of purchase, whether that's, like I say, the marketing funnel online or whether that's in store. So building distribution is really, really important. It is what it is. Instant coffee. Like, I don't need to tell you what it is. Like, it's so the whole food festival thing for us. It's not on the agenda this year. We've done a bunch of things over the years. We've done all the
How lucky are you, though, to know that actually you know what works, because you are a family business that has grown. You've learned what activities work for your consumer or new consumer.
Yeah.
So that's a really powerful position to be in.
Yeah, and I think, again, because I've tried everything a few times, it's like we could do all sorts of stuff, but with a small marketing budget, and our marketing budget is small, we have to focus that really. We've got to be really like pinpoint focused on how we spend that money.
Yeah.
And you can't do like Taste of London and this event and Chelsea Flower Show and then also hit it really hard with like performance marketing and do organic content really well. And you've got to pick a side essentially. So this year it's all about building community, content marketing, performance marketing. That's it. And in-store activation as well. We always have to put some media into that. But and then that's the omni-channel world. And I think, the real world stuff, we might bring that in next year, but this year is not, there's no budget whatsoever.
Oh. So one word for 2025?
It's just opportunity. I just see opportunity everywhere for the brand.
Yeah.
Coffee's nearly £2 billion worth. The category's massive. There's so many consumers engaging in flavored coffee right now. Iced coffee, it's just opportunity. Let's go. Let's fricking go.
Yes.
So maybe an acronym like...
You're going to try and make one up now?
Yeah, well, LFG, I guess, yeah. But opportunity.
Love that. Lame. No, it's not lame, because I think when you started the year or started last year, would opportunity have been the word? Has that sort of transitioned?
No, we felt stuck. That's one of the reasons I won a Dragon's Den. I felt stuck. I felt like we didn't know what to do to break through that £4 million barrier.
Yeah.
We'd properly plateaued, and they said that on the show. We had, and now we've broken through that, and we've got a really clear path to 6.5 million, which is what we're going to do this year.
Last question: what made you feel that break? Like, what was the moment of the breakthrough? Was it Dragon's Den, or was it another realization that you got to that you thought, oh my god, that's it, that is the moment?
So it was, I think on the day after, or the night of the airing, and the day after, I was like, okay, the dial's being moved. It was wild.
Yeah.
And then you sort of see that, you're punching through numbers that you've never seen before, whether it's like in terms of engagement or just volume and revenue. Like it was just that's when I realized that this show does bits for a brand. And
this show does bits.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, it's been a lot of work to get here, but it's been worth it. And then since then, our rate of sale in stores like organically up 30 or 40%.
Amazing.
D2C channels 2.5x what it was base before the show. So it has moved the dial. And that's when I kind of went, all right, well, this is an excuse to go and talk to the buyers. It's an excuse to push harder on content, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's, again, I wish it was something less sort of basic than that, but that is when that's when I realized.
And maybe when you also thought, oh my goodness, like we've got validation that everybody's got eyeballs on this brand and that it's got a massive future because people love it as much as we do. I think there's a bit of that in there as well.
There is. And I think actually it was me walking out of the den going, those guys get it. Like those, at least 4 of them. Tuka, not so much.
He's a funny one.
He's a funny one. He's got a coffee business already, which apparently is better than my coffee business.
Never.
Bush is fine, but the other 4 of them, that the validation, especially with Steve. Why am I calling him Steven? Especially with Steve, sort of being so passionate about wanting to be part of it. I was like, man, like, come on, like that just. You can work in a bubble, especially in Devon. You're in this bubble and you're slaving away year after year. And then to bring it, like, let it out the bag like that. And then for Steven Bartlett to go, I want to invest in this. I want to be part of it. You're like, okay, I
felt really proud watching it because I was like, this is a brand that I've known for a really long time and is on the telly. I was like, I felt starstruck. I was like, this is amazing. This is so amazing. But honestly, we're going to have to wrap things up. We love a chat, don't we? We could chat forever.
How long has it been?
I know, nearly an hour.
Wow!
But thank you so much because I know that so many people are going to take what you've said and find it really useful because there's so many people that feel stuck. There's so many founders that are at the point of, we've got this business, we don't know where to go, how to grow it. And I think your points will really, really help.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to help. If you want to DM me on LinkedIn, it's a bit of a mixed bag how quickly I go back to you. But connect and, it's a community. We're in a community.
100%
and we need to help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we set this podcast up. It's about having real conversations and it's about giving founders, leaders, all of those insightful conversations that nobody ever talks about, basically never talks about.
Absolutely.
And I think after COVID, we all went into a bit of a dip of everybody's got their head in the sand. And now's the moment for us all to, get back in a room together and talk about these things. So
yeah, I think so. And it's just let's just cut the crap. Let's cut the BS and just... it's not bunnies and flowers all the time. It's hard. So, yeah.
It's really hard
well
sometimes.
Done. It's a great podcast. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And the only things left to say is subscribe, leave a review. If there's anything that we haven't covered, let us know. If Will's a great guest, let us know. If there's anybody else you want to see, also let us know. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Excellent.